Great. Okay, I think we'll just start and we can let folk in as they join. Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's great to have you here on the first day of the P4P Third Sector Collaboration Week. Basically, the week's about raising awareness of collaboration, the different approaches to it, and the benefit that it can bring. And each day is focusing on a different government policy area. So today is procurement. There are also days themed around community wealth building, climate action, COVID recovery, and international as well. So do keep an eye on the P4P social media. There'll be a range of podcasts, videos, other information happening through the week. And I will pop a link to the P4P programme for the week in the chat so that you can all see what's going on. So hello, my name is Jane. For those of you that don't know me, I manage the Employability SEN with my colleague Janice, who's here today as well. I think as there's a few folk on today that may not be as familiar with the SEN, I'm just going to briefly touch on who we are and what we do. So we are a national network for social enterprises who deliver a wide variety of person-centred employability services in their broadest form, often for people furthest from the labour market. So the work that the SEN does is around raising the profile of members and promoting what they do. We represent members' interests to reflect their needs and aspirations and challenges. We ensure, or we hope to ensure, that their expertise of working with people furthest from the labour market is recognised and valued. And we also support and connect our membership as well. So the Employability SEN is one of SEN's got 6 thematic networks, and as with all the others, membership's free. So before we start, I am going to quickly run through the Zoom rules. If we can all stay on mute until you're looking to speak, that would be great. Please feel free to use the chat to say hello, to share information, to ask questions. And I guess just to confirm again that we are recording the session and it will be shared on the P4P YouTube channel. So I guess it's just to be mindful of that. If you have a question to ask and you don't want to be on the recording, you can just message me privately in the chat and I can ask it anonymously on your behalf. The aim is that we will be pretty informal today. And again, if you're more comfortable or you're having technical problems, just post a question in the chat privately to me and I can ask it for you. So I guess we all know there are huge numbers of reasons why organisations might look to collaborate. And certainly partnership working and collaboration is a long-standing thread running through government policy, not least in the world of employability. And I think when we hold these sessions, we're always keen to have a kind of practitioner on, someone who's walked the walk. So when we were discussing a kind of speaker for a session around third sector and employability and collaboration, the speaker that we have with us today was at the top of our list. So it's great that Pauline from Connect Community Trust is here with us today. We're here to talk, well, Pauline is here to talk about Glasgow Empowering Community Co-operative, which is much easier to shorten to GECCO. They're a number of development trusts working across Glasgow, and their aim is to provide local solutions to citywide challenges and to address inequalities and disadvantage. So Pauline is going to talk to us a little bit about how and why GECCO was established, how they've kind of built on the collaborative approach, the challenges that they faced along the way, and the difference that collaboration has made. There's going to be a wee bit of focus, I think, on the employability contracts that GECCO have won as well, which is great. Afterwards, we're going to hear from Neil from P4P, and he's going to talk a little bit about collaboration and the support that P4P provides, and also some of the work that they've done in this space as well. So that is certainly enough from me. I am going to hand over to Pauline, who's going to tell us a little bit more about GECCO.
Okay, thanks very much, Jane. So absolutely, you're right, GECCO for short. It's a bit of a mouthful when you say Glasgow Empowering Communities Consortium or cooperative. So I'll explain a bit. There's a consortium and a cooperative running at the same time at the moment. Yeah, GECCO for short. What I want to start off saying is that, you know, it'd be a bit arrogant of us, that even though members currently, to say we are just Glasgow Empowering Communities Consortium. This is an evolving consortium and an evolving cooperative, and hopefully I'll sort of explain that as I go along. Because we want completely, you know, more people to join in, and hopefully P4P and DTAS will be ones helping us and supporting us to roll that out to other members and other people who are interested once you find out a bit more about it. So basically why it was set up was a sort of a vehicle for a lot of smaller organisations or community-based organisations to get together. There were so many tenders that we've seen over the years that we're unable to bid for or were too small for. The money wasn't there, too risky, etc. Or we were named partners in bigger bids with bigger organisations. And sometimes you do a lot of the work as a community-based organisation, maybe not see any financial gain for that, you know, or financial money coming back for the work you did with volunteers. So it's a bit frustrating, and I think we were all just thinking, you know, how do we address this? How do we work with this? We didn't expect Scottish Government or the tenders writers even putting it right down into community-based, because we understand how messy that is. So what we really wanted to do was try and get ourselves together as community organisations or development trusts in the initial stages, to say, how do we do this and how do we make it less messy and more possible for us to be part of these tenders and go for them ourselves. So GECCO was formed in, this is quite shocking actually, it was back in 2015, which I didn't realise it was that long ago, but we've lost time because of COVID, so we'll just put it down to that. Yeah, 6 years ago, 5 development trusts got together. So there was ourselves, Govan Hill Community Development Trust, Swamp, Lamb Hill and Community Central Halls. And the reason why it was just 5 at the start was, one, we wanted across, the whole idea was having a city-wide coverage. So we don't cover the whole of Glasgow with those 5 members, but what we did was have a base in the north, south, east and west, and then that would hopefully grow from there. And also, you'll all know, you know, smaller the group sometimes initially, easier it is to get things sort of moving and worked out. So 5 of us got together. It was clear we all had a shared vision, shared experiences of not being able to tender for things or being named partners in bigger bids. But we also saw that like lots of opportunities out there. And so I think, again, there was that sort of shared understanding that actually if we got ourselves together, we could possibly look at bids and win some things ourselves. So first few meetings very much just about talking, just mapping out what we were doing, what the common themes were. So, I mean, again, if you look at any community organisation, not just the 5 of us, where you had transport, allotments, environmental, childcare, health and social care, community safety, cultural training, you can imagine what that mapping exercise was a bit like. You know, that was a whole wall of what do you all do and where do we all do it? And then on top of that, obviously, the training, learning, employability side of things. So hundreds and hundreds of different things that we all did independently within our communities, but also there was common themes between all of them that we all did that could come together. We really needed to narrow that down, obviously, in the first instance and find out where the opportunities, what tenders were coming out. But we also quickly realised that we all had a day job to do. So yeah, it was already becoming apparent that, right, who was going to do that mapping exercise, who was going to do this bit, who was, you know, it just became, yeah, it was becoming difficult, not because we didn't have that enthusiasm to keep it going, it was just literally who has the time to do this when we're running our own organisations at the same time. So thankfully DTAS and Scottish Government came to helped us out at that time. So they really believed in what we were doing. They could see the vision that we had, and we'd given them our mapping exercises and everything else. And they were able to find some money for capacity building, which allowed us to look for a consultant, or we were thinking a full-time employee at the time actually, but we put it out as either we would take a secondment for a year or a consultant over a period of time. So yeah, so we got a consultant recruited, Joan Riddell, fantastic woman, did really well with us, just sat us down in a room all together. At that time as well, also, we put it out to other development trusts as well to say, like, if you want to join us, you know, like the options here. So DTA would put that out to other members. So we also got Fuse, Cranhill, and then a couple of non-DTA members, actually, Rosemount, Fair, all joined us as well. So we were up to 8 because we, again, didn't want to make an exclusive group. So if people could learn from this or be helped by this, then we wanted them to join. At that point, though, this is where it gets a wee bit messy, because I was trying to work out the timescales, because you'll know yourself, tenders and opportunities, I mean, you can't predict when they're going to come out. So at the time, actually, the Youth Employment Initiative came out for City Council, a bid for that. And just at the time when we were thinking we've set ourselves up for citywide bids, this one came out in 8 different lots for northeast, north south, like areas of the council. So we're already like, right, okay, right, let's think again, how are we going to do this? So there were 3 of us in the northeast that thought, let's just go for it. We've got nothing to lose, really, let's just see where we come in the point system. So ourselves, Fair and Rosemount Lifelong Learning got together and submitted a bid for that. Unfortunately, I took a lot of everyone was doing a bit, but someone has to take the lead to start writing it. And so, yeah, I remember some painful nights with that one, trying to pull together policies and procedures, because we hadn't even started the work with a consultant at that point. So I was running about going, Fair, Rosemount, have you got this, you got that? So we were all played our part within it, and got that submitted. So that was fine, and we came third, which was great. We knew we weren't going to win, but this was more of a test, really, to be honest. So we were happy with third out of all the lots. Again, meantime, so sorry, I'm jumping all over the place because all these things happened at the same time though as well. So the consultants got us around the room, and then the Fair Start bid came out as well. So again, we're like, oh, right, okay, this is good. This looks like something we could bid for as well. The consultant had only just sat 8 of us around the table, and already we're going, well, we don't want to miss the opportunity. This is the whole point of this. So I had a couple of meetings regarding that as well. And then we realised straight away, actually, well, within a couple of meetings, that we were all like, it's too risky, can't do it. We're still not ready for this. However, what that did do was give us a really good grounding and a basis to work with a consultant and say, look, why don't we pretend we're going for it? Because what that'll do with all of us 8 around the table, even though we know we're not going to go for it, what we'll find out is where the pitfalls are, who's in this, who's doing what, where's the common themes again, shared visions, developing the aspirations of what we want to do, but then also working through an actual bid to see, right, we don't have that, why don't we have that, do we ever want to have it as a partnership? So as you can imagine, that's sort of building a lot of trust, a lot of communication between us, because you have to be really open as a partnership going forward with this. We can't all be hiding, we don't have that policy, or not being honest enough even to say, look, I actually don't do that, and I can maybe learn from you. So a lot of learning went through that process, and it was over a period of about a year that we worked with that consultant. So 55 days over a year's period, or 8 months. But really, really needed, it got us to the point where we couldn't come to the meeting. All of us as managers, we would, you pass it on to a staff, and there was no excuses. You needed to bring it to the meeting. You needed to all be on the same playing field and all questioning why things, what we were doing. So really, really bonding. A lot of trust. Some people fell off as well through the consultancy stages. So again, that was sort of clear that it was maybe not for them at that time. Maybe they didn't want to move it forward, which again was good, and it's honest as well, because you don't want to just, we weren't playing. We wanted to seriously win a tender coming up. So I think we ended up, there was about 5 or 6 of us that were core by the end of the consultancy stuff, which again was still good. Still got us everything that we wanted out of that, and we produced a lovely manual, which was tender ready manual for all of us to take away and use at our own leisure as well, because a lot of it's been useful for us independently as well as sort of coming together. So yeah, so that was sort of a year on from that. And then once the consultancy finished, I think the partnership itself, again, we were all, we were a bit quiet, I'll be honest, so we were talking to each other, we were still in contact, and every so often there was maybe a contract on PCS that came up for transport or health and things like that. So we talked about them, and they never seemed to come to anything. So yeah, but the conversations were still there. The partnership we knew was still existing. And if there was something that came to mind or came to a head that one of us wanted to apply for, we would come round. And that's again what GECCO is hopefully going to be, into the near future or the much long future, is that people come to, no matter if it's us or anyone else, comes to GECCO and says, look, there's this health tender that I'm looking at. Do you think there's partners around this table, or a call out we could do through GECCO to say, let's come together because there's the vehicle for it. So yeah, anyway, none of them had happened, but at the same time we were still talking, as I say. So First off came the DWP bid, which became a reality. So Connect had been working with DWP for probably about 8 years, I think. We've been doing a lot of DPS contracts and various other things. But as many of you'll know, a lot of funders want something new. It has to be, doesn't exist. What's new? And that can be frustrating at sometimes if something works. However, in this case, actually, we thought, what doesn't exist in the East is, a collaboration of employability. Again, we all work in employability, etc. But wouldn't it be good if we could do a bid together that is something different? So we wrote a bid in with FAIR, Cranhill. Again, this is a different membership, so this is slightly evolving again. So FAIR, Cranhill, YOMO, which is in the East, where the citywide base actually, and Cranhill and Fuse. So there was 5 of us. I'd sort of just emailed out and said, look, anyone interested in this? All 5 said yes. So we pulled together a bid for DWP, and have been running that for the last 6 months, no, 8 months. Unfortunately, that's COVID hit, and it's been a bit more difficult in employability, as you can imagine, especially writing, launching a new partnership as well as COVID, and all trying to work together and what you're doing it remotely. But in actual fact, I can't speak for everybody, but I hope I can, that I think it really brought us together to learn how we were all doing employability during COVID. So not only did we learn from each other about how we deliver to clients and how we do that, but we also were able to sort of talk to each other. The employability staff were able to talk to each other and go, God, I'm really struggling with this, and just have that conversation, that honesty at their weekly meetings, basically, to say how do we do this? This isn't the way we work. We're all very personal centered. It's like literally the people come to us. We chat through hundreds of different things. Also, our outcomes were supposed to be about volunteering and things like that. Couldn't do that through COVID. So lots of things that couldn't be achieved, but an awful lot of understanding between the partnership of how we could do that once we're coming out of it. And I'm glad to say, the targets have all been met. Literally the minute the easing of restrictions, we started people getting into jobs, etc. So we've exceeded the targets that we even needed from that. I would say everyone's at different levels with that, and I think that's been a learning thing for us. Some people have seen a lot more people than others. Some have only 5 or 6 people, and others have seen 40. But again, that was a learning thing to go through. It's not always about the numbers, and also everyone does a different level of employability. So a lot of people would work more with young people, or they would, they didn't have the level of services coming back after COVID, etc. So that wasn't a problem. I would say the learning from that has been, because we're going to try and put another DWP bid in, learning from that has been just from a financial aspect. And none of us from communities like to talk about the finances all the time. It's not about the outcome-based stuff. It's very much about the people. But there has been a bit of a learning curve there, and that's where again the honest and the sort of tough conversations I think have to come as well. That we all have to realise what level we're putting in to the partnership. So no fallouts, no nothing, to date. So we're just looking at what we do next and how we roll that out. And so that's the DWP one. But again, at the same time, we had the ESF one came out. So European Social Funds came out with Glasgow City Council for, I think it was 6 lots. And we saw lot 1 as lot 1's disadvantage, and we just went, that sort of ticks all. We're all working in areas of disadvantage and high unemployment, etc. So again, put the call out to GECCO guys on the citywide side of things, and said, look, this has come out. What do you want to do? And they all went, yep, let's do it. However, I suppose no one actually put their hand up to say, I'll write it. And obviously being the one that called out and said, do you want to do this? Yeah, I felt a bit het for it, I'll be honest. But I also didn't mind. I suppose maybe a bit of sick side of myself, it was a bit of like, I'll learn while I go with this. However, at the end of this, I'll say I'll never ever do it again, because it's one of the most painful things I have ever written in my entire life. So it's bad enough when you're writing it for one organisation, but when you're talking about 5 organisations, no wonder a lot of organisations have tender writers, and we will be recruiting the next time we go for another tender, a tender writer or a consultant writer. But yeah, it was unbelievably helpful that we had the manual in the background that the consultant that Joan had helped us write. So a lot of policies and procedures had to go through boards and things like that to get the sign off. but yeah, everyone again super keen about, there's nothing majorly different about the bid, actually what we're doing on it, that we don't already do. It was just about the writing it down on how you do it as a partnership to a certain extent. So we all did volunteering, training, SQAs, job clubs, etc., CVs. We did all of the stuff that it was asking us to do. We were working on all the stages. It's just a lot of us weren't saying we were working on stages of an employability line, so it was really the work that had to go in was very much about pulling that together of all the bits that everyone did and saying, like, here's all the red mark bits that you need to fill out to say, what do you do in stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And again, everyone played ball with that. No one pulled out, no one went, oh, right, okay, that's too much. But everyone played their part and fed into me when they needed to feed into the different aspects of it, get their board on board, their boards that to sign things off and adopt the certain policies and procedures that needed to be shared. All did that quite easily, which was good. And then you got that. Yeah, so that was, I mean, what I'll also point out, that was I think it was a 6-week turnaround on that one. So like every tender, I don't know, I mean, we've had conversations about this in wider fields, that why procurement is done, the P4P thing I'm sure here, where procurement gets put out in 6-week turnarounds on things is unbelievable. Like it just sets you up to fail for if you're not ready and you're not. So anyway, but yeah, so 6 weeks turnaround on that. So yeah, pretty tough going, but we are where we are and we won it, which was amazing. So there is 5 of us now, so Connect's the lead, and that's where I was saying the consortium and the cooperative. There is a cooperative legally set up, but this one was done under a consortium. And the reason for that was we didn't have the bank account open for the cooperative, and we didn't have all those other wee bits for the cooperative as a legal structure. Now that we've done this, we are already talking about how do we make this, again, the legal structure, because that was the way it was always supposed to be. So there wasn't to be a lead partner. So Connect was never the lead, or Central, no one was supposed to be lead. It was supposed to be under the cooperative itself. So everyone had a legal say, and it was just a bit fairer in that sense, because we don't. But the 6-week turnaround didn't allow us to do that. So there's still some work to be going into that. But yeah, so it's under the consortium. Connect's the lead partner in that, but everyone's got a staff member within that. So there's 5 employees. We've got 3 employment advisors, one with Swamp, one with Community Central Halls, one with Connect, and then we've got a Slovak worker over at Govan Hill Community Development Trust, and we've got one shared admin monitoring officer between us. So we're only at the early stages. So when you ask me how's it going, it's going great up until now, which is fantastic. We're meeting weekly, so all advisors as well as the managers, each of our organisations are all meeting together. I'm sure we'll all start taking a step back, but we are all working together of how do we launch this, how do we work with the clients. Oh my God, the paperwork. Anyone that's worked on an ESF contracts knows the amount of paperwork that goes with that. And that's not what our organisations are like either. Like we do the job, like, and we keep we keep all the paperwork we need to. But ESF is ridiculous. So that is being quite, I suppose, amusing actually at our meetings, which is causing quite a lot of laughter, going, why are we doing this? And we're all feeling the pain together. But yeah, and we all work slightly different. I suppose how we're going, there is definitely each of our organisations work differently, and we don't want to change that, which is the reason why we come together to try and win these bids. So we're not all the same, and we never will be. But I'm hoping that we keep what we've got going just now, and it is just about you work your way, you work your way. Like it works for the clients. We prove individually it works, so collectively it should be even better for clients, because we're sharing our resources, and we're sharing, like Swamp does cultural stuff and music. We don't, like, so if we've got a client that's interested in that, or Mark at Community Central Halls has a lot of childcare opportunities and jobs and things like that, we don't, like, so there's just loads of stuff that we're now finding that actually is very beneficial to the clients. It's just all about communication, really, to be honest, to make sure that we keep that going. I think one of the things that you were asking me about, sort of to cover, Jane, was sort of the difficulties, and I think the difficulties definitely is the writing of the bid. Like that the time-consuming area of writing the bid and pulling people together. and also making sure, I think one of the difficulties for GECCO, and I think that's where P4P and SEN Scott and DTAS and everyone else can help us drive it forward. I want to make sure or we want to make sure it's not looked at as upon a GECCO's Connect thing or mine or any one of the partners. It's hopefully going to be, yes, this was about employability, but there's those hundreds of other things that we do, transport, health, all of those other things. And what we really want to do is it to be evolving, constantly evolving, with different people coming on or different organizations coming on board and just saying, look, I've got this opportunity, anybody else interested? And I think that's what's going to be key to the success of GECCO going forward. I don't have any worries about the employability contracts. I think the targets, a lot of us do the targets, already, so that we know we can deliver on it. It's just whether we can do all the administrative stuff in the background to make sure we're proving all of it. But yeah, I'm not scared of it. I think it's exciting, and I think we've got, I think it's community organisations as well. We're pretty honest, of what we do well and what we don't do well, and I think learning off each other has been really positive, and hopefully going forward it will be the same. So I think you said 20 minutes, and I think that's probably 20 minutes-ish, but I'm more if I sort of ask me questions, let me answer them, people. So probably I've spoken enough, and you can ask me questions that I haven't answered.
Thanks, Pauline. Well, I think to take us through like 6 years of development in 20 minutes, it is pretty good. That was great. It's so uplifting, I think, to hear the story of GECCO, because I remember when you came and spoke to a group of us in Glasgow about what you were hoping to do and where you were at, and I think that was about 2017, so it would have been fairly early on, and to see how it's all developed from there and how successful you've been is fantastic. So I do appreciate you sharing that with us. I am going to see if anyone here has any questions initially in terms of what you've said. So if you want to raise a hand, virtual or real, we should be able to catch you, or obviously put a question in the chat if you have any. So you've done so well, Pauline, that
I've done so well. I've just covered everything, or no one picked up anything because I spoke so quickly with it all.
It's not surprising to hear that that ESF was quite painful, to be honest, as someone who, when I first started with Social Firm Scotland, who had to photocopy every single little tiny receipt for everything for ESF. Yes, I feel your pain.
But we're trying to influence the electronic side of things, but with an iPad signature and stuff, but it's not working yet. But I think one of the other things I probably would add, because ESF's obviously coming to an end, and all of you, well, all of us are involved in employability, whether it's SDS or ESF or other funds of some sort. I think with all the changes to, is it no one left behind, and that they're talking about, and we all need to be having those discussions, I suppose, ourselves as well, to try and influence them. I've been to a couple of sessions recently of them asking what's good about this contract and what's good about that. So I'm quite happy, that we're involved in ES to see what's good and what's, so yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting times, isn't it? And I think that's why collaboration, the cooperatives or whatever else is very important for going forward. And that's why I'm really keen to say this is not an exclusive group, this is for whoever, who may be struggling by themselves or isn't, and just sees another opportunity to be part of it. But I am aware that we probably need to advertise, and that's where I think P4P, SEN Scott and DTAS as member organisations come into play with us to help push GECCO forward, to say, like, wait, what other members of your membership want to be involved in this? And it might be that others don't, but the option's there, and I think I really want to make that clear that it's evolving. Yeah, it's an interesting time just now for employability, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that was going to be one of my questions in terms of how you're planning to adopt or adapt rather the consortium or the cooperative in relation to the kind of changes that are happening in the employability world. I don't know how far down the line you are with that. I realise we are still uncertain of what it's going to look like come April next year.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably in the same boat as everyone else. We're just having the conversations, isn't it? But again, I'll go back to saying there's a vehicle for, a messy environment sometimes for community organisations, and that, I don't I can sympathise a little bit where Scottish Government and even City Council would maybe want to get funding down into communities, and it's not always possible. You know, City Council is a bit easier, but Scottish Government funds or DWP funds, very difficult to say we're going to fund how many community organisations is there in Scotland or in Glasgow. You know, you're talking thousands and thousands of organisations. So we as a sector have always felt that we need to get ourselves together, you know, like, so give them that option of saying, here is the vehicle, here is the way of doing that, so that it still gets down to our community organisations. Because I've been in the boat, I don't know how many times, where you do all the work and then, you know, someone else is getting all the pat on the back for it. And actually down on the ground, we haven't seen, you know, we didn't get the pat on the back for the work that we did with individuals in our community. But that also goes for the bigger organisations as well, because I know there's a few round the table here, you know, like it's about, you know, us all getting something off that, you know, like, and all getting a part of a contract that helps people on the ground and the people we're trying to support, you know, that's the biggers and the small ones. So it is just it's providing a vehicle for that. So
yeah, there was as part of the third sector collaboration week, there was the session this morning on does procurement hinder or help collaboration? And I think the general feeling across the board was yes and no, and things around the timeframes for contracts, which you kind of touched on in a 6-week turnaround, was mentioned. But also I think, yeah, you know, we need to come together as a sector to kind of, because we know what we do works, we know what our members do, you know, what our members do, we know it works, and we know it works particularly for those that are most likely to be left behind going forward. And so we need to give whoever it is no excuse not to come to us, not to use us, not for us to be part and a significant part of that mixed economy provision. Neil, I've just name-checked P4P, so I think it's probably a good time to bring you in. You maybe want to touch on some of the points that were raised this morning as well, which I think, you know, relate quite well to the employability, particularly around when is collaboration not collaboration in the employability world. I'll let you speak now, Neil. Shut up, Jane.
Sure, yeah, I don't know to start with that, because you kind of talked about a couple of things that I think are interesting. Pauline, I totally feel your pain with the ESF contracts as well, and that's because prior to working with P4P, I worked on a joint bid with Meet the Group and Wise Group when I worked there, so I've worked on that exact tender, and I'm presuming that it's maybe one of those situations where it hadn't changed hugely, but it wasn't the easiest tender to work on, so I think a double congratulations. if you've got through that tender, you've done all right. So a few of you know me already. My name's Neil Young, and I coordinate the P4P project alongside my colleague Yvonne, who's the manager. P4P was set up to support third sector organisations to collaborate or develop new partnerships. We focus on collaborating to tender, but we do also support collaboration more generally. So collaborating to go for funding opportunities or on project activities more generally. In terms of benefits of collaboration, as well as the benefit of potentially sourcing new funding, it can also lead to like efficiencies, reducing costs through shared overheads, shared staff, shared premises. It can be a great way of sharing risk. It can lead to a stronger, more united voice when approaching commissioners or policymakers. It's an opportunity to network and learn from others. And it's also an opportunity to expand into new locations or develop new skills. P4P's funding comes from the Scottish Government, which means that there is quite a lot of funded support that you can access that's at no cost to you as an organisation. So that includes support to plan and draft tenders. If you're a consortium, we can also support with memoranda of understanding or partnership agreements. So we can either provide you with a template or we can support you to draft it, or we can review it. We also facilitate partner discussions and development sessions. So one of our most common kind of supports is facilitating sessions which help you agree what your partnership mission or vision is, and also what your shorter and longer term delivery objectives should be. We also provide support around like advice on consortium models. Kind of Pauline touched on that a little bit when we were talking about like lead and sub and cooperatives. And we also provide a service called the Collaboration Health Check, which is like an assessment of the strengths and areas of improvement if you're working on a collaborative project. So the P4P website as well, just want to raise awareness of that. It's our kind of primary tool for engaging with the sector. We kind of highlight tender opportunities on a weekly basis that we think look particularly relevant for third sector organisations. So there's like a little news item that goes out for that each week. We publish regular blogs, other news items. We've got a really extensive resources database that includes various different templates, case studies, guidance documents related to tendering and collaboration. And we've also developed a flagship resource called the P4P Collaboration Toolkit, which kind of is geared towards developing a consortium over a longer period of time, kind of on a proactive basis. You can download that on the toolkit section of our website. In terms of Collaboration Week this week as well, we're holding various different events, and we're also publishing like pre-recorded webinars, podcasts, graphics, blogs, reports each day of the week this week. So, and it's kind of as Jane alluded to, it's all centered around a different policy area. So today's procurement, we're also looking at community wealth building. We've got a day where I think it's Thursday, or is it Wednesday or Thursday, we're doing a day on showcasing some international examples of collaboration as well. And we're also doing COVID recovery. So just stay tuned and look at the P4P social media accounts on Twitter and LinkedIn, and we'll be posting various things there, and anything collaboration themed. And if you're wanting to get in contact with the P4P team to kind of talk about support, then you can contact us using the Contact Us form on the P4P website, or you can also get in touch with us using info@p4p.org.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, so that's good. I mean, the P4P is a significant resource for our sector, particularly those organisations looking to bid for tenders and do so in partnership. So I would encourage anyone interested to even have just a chat with the guys there. Okie doke. So we had a question from Kim asking, Pauline, whether your tender ready manual was shareable.
We have shared it with GECCO members, so if you want to join GECCO, then yes. A fair answer.
So how does someone go about joining GECCO? What would you encourage them to do first of all?
I would say just give me a call or drop me an email, and then we get together, chat through what it is, and then join us. Yes, I mean, there's no formal thing. We had kept it the Development Trust early on, just again because we're all DTA members, but it's wider than that already. Yeah, it's just about people who are keen to collaborate, really, to be honest. And that's what we've not got any massive list of criteria that you need to tick. Yeah.
Excellent. Again, I mean, I don't know whether this is a daft question, but you're obviously the organisations within the collective at the minute are all Glasgow based. Are you looking to work wider than Glasgow at any point, or is that beyond scope?
Yeah, well, it could do. We actually, at the early stages, again, we were just finding our feet. I had a meeting out in Twyford, at North Lanarkshire, in Twyford. Anyway, so we went out to Twyford because there was a number of members out that way who were interested in doing something similar. And we had an initial meeting, but we didn't take it any further because the conversation, well, does it become like empowering communities, or do we do a separate one out here that you guys, we didn't get to that. So there is always option, because again, it's all about what opportunities are out there. Like one, we could create our own opportunities by going lobbying Scottish Government or others to say, like, we've got all these opportunities, how do we base a tender around it or procurement around it? Or it's about waiting to see what procurement comes out or what tenders do come out, and then shaping ourselves for that. So they could be Scotland, but we all know they come out Scotland-wide, Glasgow-wide, you know, they could be anything. And it's just about us sitting ready as best we can for whatever next opportunity comes out. So, so yes, it can go wider. I think it would be nice, you know. Again, I'm talking about but I like the vision of every city having something similar. You know, like then we all come together, but someone needs to facilitate that, don't they? You know, whether that's DTAS or Sensco or someone, you know, like to sort of try and help facilitate that between us. Or there might be some of your members already that are Scotland-wide, you know, so is it them that try and facilitate? I don't know, you know, I don't have the answer to that, but I think it has to always be fluid, and the opportunities to become bigger or smaller, and no one get hurt by not being in it, because I'm certainly, there'll be lots of bids that will come out, hopefully that I'm not going to be part of, that other people will be, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite sort of encouraging to hear that you see GECCO evolving, because I get the sense when speaking to members from a lot of them that they feel like a lot of these collaborations are like closed shops, and once you're in, and it's really difficult for any new organizations to join. So, you know, I think it's really good that you're open to that.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things actually, because I think that's why I said it can sound a bit arrogant that we are Glasgow Empowering Communities Cooperative. Do you know, like that sounds arrogant. Do you know, like we as the 5 organisations that won this bid are not. You know, we as a collective, you know, have to have lots of people joining us, and I'm aware that there has to be a lot more legwork on that. But we've all said right from the start, this isn't about 4 or 5 or 8 of us that have been involved so far. This is about hopefully 50, 60 organisations that can come together at any point. I mean, we don't even have to meet regularly sometimes. Just knowing you're part of that and it's there for you to use has got to be the thing. And that's why the legal side of things we want to get sorted, have it sitting there. So again, it's something that people can dip in and dip out of. But having that consortium even works as well. You know, again, it's just about people can dip out whatever suits you, you know, whatever benefits you. So.
Well, I mean, you touched on the whole learning from each other, and I guess there's that peer support element as well. If you know that, you know, you are part of something, and you can go to someone for advice on, you know, a situation maybe that's facing you. Okay, I would be keen to hear from some of the people that are with us today in terms of, you know, again, if you've got any further questions for Pauline or for Neil, you know, please feel free. Or if you've got any experiences yourself of collaboration, or where you've tried and it hasn't worked, because sometimes the best learning can come through situations that haven't worked. Yeah, would anyone like to come in at this point? It would stop me from talking at least. So I think I saw there was a comment from David, Neil, giving a big up for P4P in terms of the support that you provided. So that's lovely to see. Thanks for sharing that, David. Adele, let's have a look at your comment. Yeah, are you there, Adele? Do you want to say a little bit more about what you do? Ah, okay. That's fine. That's working from home, isn't it? When you've got a toddler that isn't mindful of the fact that you're on a Zoom call. Okie doke. Okay.
I would just like say to Adele's comment, actually, do you know that's key things like that maybe others are missing. Do you know, like the financial education not all of us do through employability. So having others that are experts in the field that we are sometimes lacking is key to winning bids. So yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, a lot of employability contracts see employability as quite a sort of traditional type of support, whereas actually I think what we're going to need going forward is something that's a lot broader and will include things like financial education and inclusion. I think mental health support will be quite key going forward. So I think it's about part of the benefits of collaboration is recognizing that you can't get everything within one organization, and tapping into the skills and experience and expertise within your partners.
Or sometimes what also happens is, to win the bid, you create the service instead of pulling in others. So that often happens is where I've seen it quite often where, that there'll be all things to all people instead of actually pulling in another partner that maybe has those expertise, like in financial education. They'll recruit a new financial education worker, and actually what you could have done was pull in another partner to do that.
Yeah, which I think makes more sense, is more seamless. David, hi, how you doing?
Oh, hi. So my mic and headphones are not working too well, so I don't know if people can hear me. But yeah, it was just to add to what I put in the chat box really about that experience in Midlothian. So the 5 organisations involved were so different in their ethos, all quite small, but remarkably different. And initially, I think there was a lot of competition, and much of it sort of imagined, and a lot of anxiety about working together. So I don't know if Pauline found the same, but they had to overcome that to actually form a partnership, which they did very, very quickly. And I don't know quite how things have gone, because my role was really just to sort of bring them together. But I think, yeah, it wasn't an easy starting out point, and yet I think they made a lot of progress in quite a short period of time. I think they wouldn't go back in that now. So although it can be tough, I think the benefits are there.
I think that from our experience, I think that, because that's why I'm saying, it surprised me how long ago we started this. And I think there probably is quicker ways to go about it, but actually in hindsight, I think that's worked in our favour, taking this length of time just to get to know each other and have that trust and reduce that anxiety. Because I think there was a bit, when I talked about the Youth Employment Initiative one that we submitted just the 3 partners, and we just said, well, what have we got to lose? But there was a bit of a worry, when we submitted it, we're like, what happens if we did win this? Like, oh my God, because we hadn't really worked through everything that we needed to work through to be able to launch it. It's just, we thought, let's go on and do it. But there's a bit of an anxious wait to see if we might win it. And I think there might have been a few chats after that point, but it was definitely worth it. But because we worked through a lot of things, and it raised a lot of questions that we needed answered before going for the next one. So I think that worked in our favour. But yeah, I don't know what I'd done if we did win at the time.
I'm guessing though, Pauline, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that having done so much of the legwork, which must have been an absolute nightmare given the size of the contract, but having done so much of that work, that if other opportunities do arise, that it won't be quite so painful again, in theory.
I'll see, that's what I said after the Youth Employment Initiative that I put in, and then we went for an ESF one, and I said, why have I done this? I don't know why I said this to people. But yeah, I mean, I can laugh about it now, but yeah, it should be easier because everything that we've done is obviously won it. So we've got everything in place for the next hopeful contract that comes out, but something will be different, won't there, in the next one, and hopefully it is different though, because, all this outcome-based funding, it's not for it's painful, but yeah, so hopefully there's no one left behind. We all get to influence some way or other for it better for all of us to win the contracts as well as to deliver the contracts as well. So, but yeah, no, I have swore I'm not doing it again, David. So.
Ollie, we're going to call you the Steve Redgrave of the collaboration and bidding world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the good news with No One Left Behind is that we are moving away from that payment by results, that outcome where your outcome is a job, basically. We are moving away from that. So progression should be recognised within No One Left Behind, and it won't be that kind of focus on getting someone a job, whether it's the right job for them, whether they can sustain that job, being less important. So I mean, I think there are clear opportunities there for our sector. Okie doke. Anyone else want to come in either with a question or an experience? It doesn't necessarily need to be within the employability world in terms of collaboration or building a partnership. I guess this is the time to kind of share, maybe something that's worked really well for you that other organisations might learn from, or as I said before, what hasn't worked so well. I refuse to believe that none of you on this session have not collaborated before, given it's something that runs through social enterprise. Wade, hi there.
Hi guys. I'm Wade Cormack, Partnerships Manager at Venture Trust. So in the past few years, we have developed run a employability program called Change Cycle, which has been focused in Glasgow and then in Edinburgh as well. And we've had fantastic experience working with our delivery partners, Bike for Good and the Bike Station. And it's been quite a seamless back and forth. And there was good trust developed from quite an early stage of the program delivery. We created a few pilots and trialed things to see how it worked. We were able to continually grow and develop the program. We're coming towards the end of the last EF contract for that, so we're not quite sure exactly how that's going to go. But together, I think we've built a really interesting model of fun hands-on bike building for a few weeks, and those kind of learning experiences for employability, and mixing that with some kind of more traditional classroom learning, seeing how we can look at linking with other partners for developing different ones, whether that's using that model for green jobs or different avenues of work, depending on what's really required for employment within, say, Glasgow or Edinburgh, or in different local authorities across the country. So it's worked quite well with Bike for Good. We're also developing another project trying to integrate heritage more into our personal development and our well-being work. So using local green spaces and heritage heritage locations. So this has been still quite new and teething, and what just thinking what Pauline was saying, the amount of time that things take sometimes when you're trying to get people all around a table to discuss things and move ideas to the next stage always seems like it just takes a little bit longer than you anticipate. So that was my own kind of planning and trying to project plan this, that I definitely need to add that extra percentage of time onto my estimate of how long it's going to take to get those emails back from people to set up the meetings to get agreements going forward. Just some of my kind of thoughts and reflections.
Thanks very much, Wade. Yeah, I mean, I think there's no such thing, well, there shouldn't really be such a thing as a pop-up partnership or a pop-up collaboration. It doesn't really work like that. And I think, you know, you should always expect teething problems along the way and for things to take much longer than you think they are, which I think is a kind of comment reflected in Ella's what's Ella's saying in the chat around about the amount of work it was done and the fact that you had a core base to start off with and built on that, and it was about trust and honesty right from the start. So I think we're seeing that come through. I guess, you know, if you're pulling together for a common cause and feeling a shared pain, that helps to build that kind of sense of community between everyone. Lorna, do you want to come in on that point? I'm guessing SCVO have had quite a lot of experience of partnership working.
Yeah, although a lot of it before my time, but yeah, some very formal ones, some less formal ones, obviously ongoing collaborations with many third sector employers across the whole of Scotland. And when you mentioned No One Left Behind there, Jane, I know you know my feelings on this. There's some nervousness about how that will roll out, because at the moment we're used to working within national frameworks, but I believe there's going to be a national framework for commissioning employability services for No One Left Behind, and that might help the 32 different varieties of bidding to different local authorities, but and local employability partnerships, but we shall see. So yeah, I mean, we have managed a number of collaborations. We work closely and more informally with the third sector employability forum, for example, and I'm hoping that forum will stimulate a bit of further collaborations in the future. The most recent one I think we've got experience of was the Community Renewal Fund, but again, my point there, the timescales just didn't allow for really helpful conversations. I mean, COVID didn't help either, because sometimes you just need to get in a room and thrash some things out, and that was really difficult to do as well. So, and then also the problem about what if it crosses boundaries or local authority areas. It was really rigid in that sense, in that you had to apply through one particular local authorities. So lots of things I think we could do that would help us in the future, and hopefully that will happen with the Shared Prosperity Fund. Who knows? Hopefully it will be less onerous than ESF anyway.
Yes, that's one thing I think we all agree on, isn't it? And yeah, something not quite as painful and time consuming as ESF. Okay, thanks very much, Lorna. Okay, does anyone have any final comments or questions to share? Pauline, have you got anything that you'd like to add?
No, I mean, I think that because we're talking about the timescales, that's one of the biggest sticking points, I think, for any organisation. I think it was 2 weeks, wasn't it, for something ridiculous for community renewal funds.
It's ridiculous.
So it's just nonsense. But yeah, I think something has to change. That's one of the big things that has to change, that's for sure. Because they're all talking about the right thing for procurement with community benefit clauses and all this sort of stuff. And when you read all of that as a type organisation, you get really excited, going, "Oh, this is written for us." Do you know, this is going, and it is going in the right direction. It's just not far enough in the right direction to not be as risky for a lot of smaller organisations to be part of. So, but no, I don't have much else to.
No, I mean, I think that's clear. I think
I suppose that's there's my lasting one. Come and join GECCO.
Sorry, what was that, Pauline? I think I spoke over you then.
If you want.
Yes, so there's your call to action, everyone. Okay, so I think that's probably us. So I will thanks, Pauline, very much for coming along and sharing your experiences with GECCO, and for opening the door for I guess, other potential collaborations and partners going forward. So thank you very much. Thanks everyone for coming. And as we said, do check out the other stuff that's happening as part of P4P Collaboration Week, and hopefully see you all soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.